Hey, how's it going, everybody? My name's Poison Ducky, and let's take a look at this replay of Norsca versus the Tomb Kings. I believe this is the first time I'm showcasing Norsca. You know, I just recently bought Norsca, actually, so really testing them out. I don't really know their play style quite yet. I haven't tried them in campaign yet either. I might try them in a campaign soon. I'm not sure. But overall, they're an interesting faction. You guys know I really like Chaos as a faction. Chaos is fun. I really like their ability to just high-powered infantry that can just like bulldoze anything that gets in its path. The only problem is you have to make the enemy get in your path. But Norsca's kind of different. Norsca, instead of a bulldozer, it's like I feel like it's not as tanky as a bulldozer, but it has twice the power. It's like you hit so hard and with such force that you can just crush them in just the impact alone. It's like a Kraber rifle or something out of like, you just hit so hard, but once that you have your shot, you miss your shot using the boys AT rifle, you know? So I'm going to have a front line of Marauders. Pretty cheap, nothing too special, with a secondary line of Spears, Marauder Spearmen, which Chaos don't have, so I quite like Marauder Spearmen. Fill a small niche that Chaos doesn't quite have. Now I'm going to have a pretty, I named this build the Pound Town, and you'll see why. I do have Trog as my mighty leader. The troll god himself. He's with the ability to spit on people. He regenerates. He's anti-large. Probably he's definitely my favorite leader for the Norsca. Like, Wolfric is cool, but Trog is a monster, and you know how much I love my monsters. So, we have one Trog. We're going to have one unit, the Brutes of the Hound. Not bringing the Brutes of their Hound is kind of a mistake in my opinion, because they're unbreakable, and any unbreakable unit has high power, because Tomb King infantry are well known for just not having that much armor, and Brutes of the Hound are just a amazing counterpick against this matchup. And you're going to quickly see why I'm called Pound Town. One unit of Norscan Ice Trolls, and 2 units of just normal Norscan trolls. So these guys don't have the frostbite. So I do have 1 frostbite, 2 normal. I do have the Famir warriors with great weapons, so I just have a lot of anti-large prowess in my build. And over here in Vanguard deployment is going to be the Maws of Savagery, Skin Wolves, armored. Very quick unit. I really like them. And they have the Origin Renown. The reason why I picked this instead of normal armored Skin Wolves is because these have armor piercing attacks, which is very useful in the Tomb King matchup. Now I'm going to be shifting my army over to the left. I'm going to use Breakthrough Tactics again. I'm really liking this Breakthrough Tactics, but with only 1 unit on the right. I should have probably sent everything on one flank, because it's really nice to overpower a flank and then just push into the flank to the enemy back line. So it's a lot of very useful tactics just to break through the middle, left or right. In this case, I'm going to be trying to break through the left. My opponent, on the other hand, is a very, very campy style Tomb Kings build. You've seen me play it myself, so you've seen the effectiveness of how powerful a range-focused Tomb Kings build can be. So my opponent's going to have a line of spears, He's going to stagger the units a little bit so that the burning head can't be that useful, which is nice. He's going to have several archers, 3 archers, one of them being the Blessed Legion of Pak, so they have armor sundering. They're going to have the Chosen the God Ushabti with great bows. Such a powerful unit. You've seen me use it. They're just great. They can pretty much shred anything. It doesn't have to be infantry. The mighty Bone Giant himself. Now, that's a really great choice, actually. If he hits my Famir with great weapons, he will accrue a value train that I'm going to have to stop very quickly. I'm going to have another unit of, not me, but my opponent's going to have another Ushabti with great bows. So that's a lot of ranged firepower. He's going to have 1 unit of Tomb Guard in the back with chevrons. He must have had a little extra money, and 1 Tomb Scorpion. But the problem is the one person leading the Tomb Kings is going to be High Queen Khalida. Now, you've seen her. She has the ability called Blessing of Asaf. She increases the armor piercing, missile damage, reload skill, and just normal missile damage by 15%. And when you're standing next to a Bone Giant, that's a huge bonus. He's going to have a Lich Priest of Light to try to net of Amontok me. Pretty standard stuff. And of course, with that out of the way, let's get into the battle. If a snipe does get into the Maw of Savagery. But I'm going to use some of my terrain here to try to stop that. Forgot to mention, I do have a Famir Balefiend with Lore of Fire. So what I really like about the Famir Balefiend is that he has the combat stats essentially of like a hero unit. Like he has of a champion or something like that, or a Thane. He has really nice combat stats, but is still a wizard. So if you ever have problems with with some sort of like, people are sniping my magic caster, or my magic caster's too squishy, bring a Bale Fiend. Famir Bale Fiends are very powerful. Now, if you're going to see here, I'm going to use the terrain here. The one unit I just cannot afford to lose is the Famir. So I'm going to use the terrain here, get my important units. It's okay if he snipes at Throg. Throg has regeneration. So I want him to snipe at units that have regeneration and won't get killed in one shot. So that's really only Throg. So I'm going to like flaunt Throg here. Like, yes, shoot at my leader. You're going to deal some damage, but he can regenerate. And here comes the missile prowess of the Tomb Kings. It's going to be devastating. Marauders do have shields, but they only block 25% of projectiles. And with this many projectiles coming in at them, like, look at this line of fire. It's going to be devastating towards any front line, any area where the arrows concentrate, especially when two are firing with armor sundering. This unit of Marauders is already half health, and they're just made it to the front line. With this unit at like 25% health, and they just made it to the front line. And they're routing already. Look, a break in the front line, and my opponent is going to hold steady. Now, he does see that I am using my breakthrough tactics with overpowering left flank pressure. I have everything. Famir great weapons, my Maws of Savagery, 2 units of Trolls, and Throg himself. It's going to be a powerhouse, and I'm going to focus down this Tomb Scorpion with some of my anti-large and make sure, well, actually, in this case, I'm going to just leave his Tomb Scorpion. I'm going straight for the juicy Ushabti back line. Now, unfortunately, because they are trolls, my trolls do rout on the right side instantly due to some heavy fire. It's not unlike they have very poor leadership. You guys know trolls are just not fantastic for this kind of taking any form of withering fire. They're only good when winning battles. And like when it says unit losing decisively, yeah, they're going to book it relatively quickly. He's sending some spearmen against Throg. I suppose that is the right choice to do because spearmen will hold him forever, but because of the mass, I just leave. There's really no point in me staying there, and the trolls are going to Pound Town, as the build suggests. I do get the Maws of Savagery into the Ushabti, which is a fantastic matchup for them. They will do a great deal of damage. They're essentially built to do all this armor-piercing damage. So much, even with the Faw's protection, it won't be enough, and I will quickly take these Ushabti off the battlefield if they just don't rout. And in my frontline engagement over here, skeletons are losing to my Marauders, which is no surprise. Marauders they have so much more melee attack. It's just much more effective. And my Brutes of the Hound actually are the MVPs of breaking through the front line of skeletons because they have so much melee attack. And they've been in combat for so long, they actually rampage, which means they will deal a huge amount of damage. Now, I do have Throg on their Lich Priest. And you may think Throg versus Khalida, Throg is a great matchup, as I'm anti-large, and Queen Khalida is not. But Queen Khalida is a duelist with armor-piercing and poison, so while I may win in the long run with Throg, it's not going to be a matchup I want to take now because I would take way too much damage. Throg is going to join the Bone Giant in combat, and the Bone Giant is not good in combat, melee combat whatsoever. His stats are 32-28 for melee versus 60 and 50. Yeah. They're not really going to deal with that well. Opponent is going to get a Ushabti summon on the left flank as I charge in my Famir with great weapons. Famir with great weapons, no trouble at all with dealing with Ushabti. In fact, they're practically the hard counter to it. Throg having his majestic duel with the Bone Giant himself, but opponent plays well. Sends in High Queen Khalida. Now, I remember I said she is a duelist. She's going to apply the poison. She's going to win this duel. If I don't move Throg out of here, which I will be moving shortly, a little lag. You can see me giving move commands, which is a little odd. But I'm going to get him out of there. Make sure I don't lose him, because when you lose your leader, Norsca just crumbles. And right now, the balance of power is firmly in my opponent's favor. But remember, folks, Throg and Trolls. I just said Trogs. I just combined the words. Whew, you can tell it's late for me, or maybe it's morning. You never know. But these trolls will regenerate, and they will most likely come back into the battlefield and make a big impact. My ice trolls are coming back. My Norscan not Norscan ice wolves. My skin wolves are going to be regenerating. I just love the regenerative abilities of Norsca. So they just a constant threat, no matter how long. battle goes on. In fact, the longer the battle goes on, the more dangerous it is. Now, Throg's going to come back here with regeneration. And remember my Famir Balefiend that I hid behind the rock? I realize at this point the Bone Giant is almost out of ammo. Shooting at some trolls, which is not the biggest threat to him anymore. I finally get my magic into play along with my Famir Balefiend. I'm going to spam fireballs at High Queen Khalida, and High Queen Khalida, if you don't know, is weak to fire. She takes 25% more damage to fire, which is a huge weakness for all Tomb King lords. And I brought the Lord of Fire. The Lord of Fire is just always the way to go, and unless you have Lord of Death, maybe. If it's either Lord of Death or Fire, and those two are the ways to kill the Tomb Kings. So I'm going to use all my fire magic, going with buffing Throg himself with the Cascading Fire Cloak so that I can take out High Queen Khalida. With that amount of melee defense, 77, even High Queen Khalida will have a hard time pushing through that. Now the Curse of Years is going to go off from High Queen Khalida. It's a dangerous ability, and I blobbed up just a little too much. The blobbing is making it so that I just take way too much damage. She's getting way too much value from this curse, and it's going to shift the balance of power, but now my balance of power is in my favor now due to the regenerative properties of my units. My Maws of Savagery are beating this Tomb Scorpion to death, even though they're so low model count. 3 models, in fact. They did a great deal of damage to the Tomb Scorpion. Well, they're going to shatter here, and a lot of my units are going to shatter. It's going to be a back and forth, if you can see. Now the balance of power is going back into my opponent's favor, and this is scary. So I need to make sure I regenerate my health, and I'm going to push High Queen Khalida out here. I need the leadership debuff of his lord dying so that his units can start crumbling. Anytime your units start crumbling, it is a good time for me. Now my Balefiend is doing well. He took a huge beating fighting High Queen Khalida, but remember, he is a hero when it comes to combat stats. So he can take down any Bone Giant. He can take down a Lich Priest of Light, no problem. The only problem in this army will be High Queen Khalida, and High Queen Khalida is just hightailing it out of there. Now back to our amazing duel. It's no longer a duel since I have support, but Throg is going to go against the Bone Giant. And even though he only has 620 hit points, I'm very certain that the Bone Giant really won't get a hit in. Especially with Cascading Fire Cloak, you're really not going to hit him anytime soon. Bone Giant just doesn't have good combat stats. And you just get to see, look at this Troll Pound Town. Trolls versus a Skeleton. Don't get to see this very often. And I just know the Skeleton won't hit him. You can even see the little crumbling animation as he goes, and he is going to crumble. Now I'm going to send a fireball over at High Queen Khalida, because remember, fire does a lot of damage. And I believe this should either end her, or make it so that she has to just retreat to the back corners of the map, or she will lose. So, just making sure here, my Balefiend is getting swamped by some Tomb Guard and Skeletons. Gotta make sure to get out of there. And he can't use his spell, actually. But no problem for the Balefiend. Balefiend has high armor and good combat stats, as I've said several times in this replay, so being stuck in infantry like this is no real problem. In fact, leadership is not wavering that much, only, yeah, just fine with his mask walking out, and I believe I will be sniping the High Queen Khalida with a fireball. Now, my units are very low. I only have a few Marauders. Like, and here comes the snipe. Come on. And there's the shot, and I believe that's going to take her down. Yes, that is. So with that, my Marauders are done harassing, and it's only Marauders and versus Tomb Guard and a Tomb Scorpion along with a Balefiend. This is pretty dangerous because if the Scorpion gets a hit on Throg, that could be the end of him, but Throg should have the advantage here. He gets knocked over, actually. Oh, God. That's not good. My Balefiend is going to come in, use the Cascading Fire Cloak once again, make sure his melee defense is at tip-top shape, and the Tomb Scorpion is going to fall. And with that, I believe that's going to be the victory to me. There's just too many... of the trolls come back. I remember, guys, I told you, they regenerate. They'll make a comeback. No matter how many times it takes, they will come back. But they'll just as fast run away. And with that, the Tomb Guard are fully surrounded by a bunch of units. Can't do too much. I'm just going to make Throg run out there, regenerate just a tad bit, and send him back in. But it's okay, and they crumble away as the Tomb Kings do. That was a pretty close match. I really liked it. It was back and forth. And I must say, I really thought I lost at some point. With the balance of power so heavily in my opponent's favor, I did not think I could make a comeback, but that was fun. Marauders doing well, of course, 97, 9, 51, 100. Jesus. I like really the cheap infantry of Norsca. Just with the whole berserk mechanic that they have, they're so effective as just staying in combat. You can't fight Norsca with spears. It's just you can't. They're too effective at killing spears. Even they're just basic infantry. And of course, the berserkers themselves, 188 kills, they will mulch through skeletons, which is really great. Trolls didn't do too well, 0, 18, 1. They did do a lot of HP damage, so they don't have high kill counts, I would say. But the trolls are just, they're kind of a meme unit. They're not too effective at doing whatever they're supposed to do. Just, I suppose they are anti-large because they don't do too well against infantry in my experience. They just kind of pound on large units. But they're just, yeah. Croc scores are better. Ushapti are better. Like, I suppose Ushapti would lose to trolls, but trolls would probably just run away, even though they are winning. It's interesting. Trolls, I want to try them out more. I did say earlier that Norsca is a faction I just recently bought, so yeah. Famir with Gore Weapons, of course, always doing a great job. One of the best units on the Norscan roster. You can't go wrong with that, along with the Maws of Savagery. It's just overall very happy. And Famir Balefin coming in clutch because I had to hide from so many projectiles, made sure my opponent didn't snipe it right out the bat. So coming in clutch, dealing a lot of damage. My opponent, I actually like the build. I think he could have done better. Usually the Irish Commissioner. Commissar. I feel like I've fought him before. But I feel like this build is okay. It's just usually after the end of the video, I usually give a build that could beat my build, right? But the thing is, I think this build is perfectly fine and capable of beating my build. It's more of execution from my opponent. He didn't defend his back line well enough. He should have had, he should have made a much bigger formation. So it takes more time for me to get in the back line. And if I had to take something out, I would probably take out this Tomb Guard with the chevrons and take a Tomb Guard with halberds and take out one of these Ushapti. You don't need 2 units of Ushapti and a Bone Giant, and just go for some Tomb Guard with halberds, and instead of skeleton spears, just go skeleton swords, because skeleton spears may last a little bit longer against berserkers, but skeleton swords will actually get a few kills while they're at it, and they're cheaper, so you should get more Tomb Guard with halberds. Skeleton swords is the front line. I like the archer line. You really don't need 2 Ushapti, and this Tomb Scorpion, like, yeah, Tomb Scorpion, I like the choice. It's a cheap unit, only 1,000 for what it does. Very good against Marauders. And so I like this build. Of course, Lich Priest of Light, I like the Lich Priest of Nekahara myself because it's just cooler. And I like the rule of cool. And High Queen Khalida, yeah. Bone Giant did very well. Bone Giant just rank 3. 29 kills only, but that's a lot of HP damage. The only mistake my opponent did was shooting Throg. Just don't shoot the guy that can regenerate all his health and won't lose any models. So overall, good game to my opponent, and I enjoyed the battle a lot. Actually, one of my favorite battles in the past few days. So guys, if you like the video, leave a like and subscribe if you want more. I'll catch you guys later.